Hello there, and thank you for joining. This is Electronic Drum School by Sunhouse, and I am Steven. And today we're going to talk about expressivity behind the drums on your electronic drum set. And some of the topics we'll be going over are blends and timbre control and velocity control. Blends and timbre control are sensory percussion specific, but velocity control and finally envelope control can be done on other systems, depending on the system. And lastly, yeah, that's good. So I'm just gonna go ahead and dive into the demo. Okay, so. Okay, so you can see I have sensory percussion open here now. And the first thing you'll want is electronic drum sound. So we'll go find some right now. We have some classic 808 sounds in this folder. Okay, and so I'm just going to go ahead and drag like a kick sound. I'll try that one. And then a snare sound as well. And so what I'm going to demonstrate first is blending. So it's going to respond like an acoustic drum would. So when I hit the drum proportionally, okay, we'll use that snare. It will respond to proportionally. So as of right now, it's just going to. Those are two separate sounds. But when I hit the blend button, blend center and edge together. So that's the first really cool thing, yeah, that excites me so much. I'm always so thrilled by that because when people were designing drum machines for the first time, I can't imagine they expected that they would be played in that way. It's so exciting. Okay, and so one thing that I also like to do that really. Credit belongs to Tlakael for Tlakael Esparza, is putting claps on rim shots because it's a sharp sound and it just works really well on a rim shot, and so that's nice. So we could blend that as well, and then that would also go across the work with these, and so we will do that. But I tend to, with this clap kind of thing, I kind of think that it just only belongs when the rim shot happens. So what I will do is I'm going to remove it from blends. So I just took this sampler and I removed it from blends. However, it is still blended. So when you hit the rim shot, you're going to get everything. But when you just play between the center and the edge, like we were before, you get the blended center and edge, which is so exciting. Okay, and so that's sort of a primer on blends. So removing that from blends is very cool. Finally, let's go ahead and add a filter, and we'll do some timbre control and some velocity control on this filter because this is a really good way to add some expressivity to your playing. So this is just a low-pass filter. Right now it's doing pretty much nothing. I put it on the whole drum channel. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a controller. First we're going to do a timbre controller, but a velocity controller also works well for this. But first let's use a timbre controller. And so now we're creating a range on this filter using center and edge. I selected center and edge. So much like these are blended, now they're both, or everything on this drum channel is going to be modified, or the filter modified by this filter. And this range is too wide right now. Okay, so let's do something like this. I think this will probably sound good. So that's cool. It's muffled, and as you go out to the edge, just played the edge out there, it's less muffled. So that's great. And so now what you can do is I like to add like a velocity controller. So just tracking my velocity, how hard I'm playing the drums. I like to add that to the resonance. And I found it works both ways. So as I play more, the more sharper the resonance gets, or as I play louder, the weaker the resonance gets. Both of those works, and I'll demonstrate both for you. But we really don't want it to be all the way up here because that would be kind of ear-splittingly sharp. But let's try it at this range. So right now, as I play quietly, the resonance will be dull, and as I play hard, it will be sharp. Okay, but now let's do the opposite of that. So I'm just flipping the range here. So this can be cool too. Yeah, I kind of like that. Where it gets duller when you play harder. I don't know. It's maybe not based off of the natural world, but it certainly feels nice. Okay, cool. So we got that. So we could also, and let me just demonstrate what velocity control of this cutoff. So I just bypassed this centered edge controller. I'm just bypassing momentarily. This is what you would do if you didn't have timbre control. You would be using velocity most likely on this cutoff and this resonance. So I just dragged the same velocity controller to the resonance, and from there I'm going to to the cutoff, and I'm going to use about the same range. So quiet hits are going to close the filter, make it more muffled. Louder hits are going to make it more open. Cool. Okay, great. So yeah, we're getting somewhere with that. I'm going to delete that last one because I like it on center to edge. That's nice. Okay, so lastly, for timbre control, you can use it, of course. In fact, let's use it first in a very extreme way on the pitch of these samplers. So on this sub or this kick, and on this snare sound. Okay, and so the range is wild. So this is not even going to sound like those samples anymore. But that's fun. It's we do that a lot, but you might be more subtle. In fact, I'm going to use a timbre control. I'm going to use a different timbre controller in a more subtle way. Let's get rid of those. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to assign the damped pad first to the edge pad. Okay, and now I'm going to create a timbre controller, different timbre controller. Okay, and this is going to be from edge to damped. Okay, so now this is tracking kind of the head of the drum, and as you'll see, I think this is so exciting. I'm going to drag this to pitch, but I'm going to do it in a much more subtle way. Okay, so I just drag that, and let's set for both of these samplers, let's set the bottom range to 0, so it won't ever go below, and then let's just do like 3 or 4 steps. Let's do 3 steps. 3 steps here, and I want this to not be very sensitive, so I'm going to move it that way. I think that's the correct way. So as I press my hand now into the drum, you'll hear it go up about 3 steps. Okay. Cool. So that's always so fun. All right, I'm going to briefly check the comments. Okay, so here we go. So that's what I wanted to talk about for timbre control, which is super fun. I always like to fade my my samplers. Maybe it's just a habit I have. Okay, so now from here, let's use velocity a little bit more to make this also an expressive instrument. So let's use a different velocity controller. We might mess with the sensitivity. That's why I'm creating a different one. We'll see if we do or not. And let's have it so that when I play loud, the sample gets longer, and when I play quietly, the sample gets shorter. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drag this over to length on both of these samplers. Okay, and this range is going to be too much, I think. So let's make sure that it never goes to actually 0, because that would mean no sound comes out. 1%. And then let's take it, see how this sounds. So I put in 30% here. Cool. Okay, so now when I play quiet, it'll get shorter, and hitting it loud gets longer. All right, fun. That's great. So now let's also, here's another thing that I really enjoy doing, is you can actually move this same velocity controller to attack. This has to be done very subtly. So we're going to move this to attack. So what this does is I want to set it up so that when I play quietly, like ghost notes and stuff, I want it to not have a very sharp attack, like have a very dull attack. And so, but it has to be like super, super subtle. And let's see if I do this. Sometimes I flip this around in my mind. So if I do it incorrectly first, we'll have to switch it back around. But I think let's do 1% and 0%. Okay, so hopefully I didn't get this in reverse. So when I play quietly, it's just going to have like a little bit less of an attack. Let's make it, because it's hard for me to tell. So let's make it 10 just temporarily to see if I know exactly what it's doing. Yes, that's what I want. And I think 1 might be too. Let's try 2. 2 might be better. We'll see. All right, that's great. That's great. Okay. Yes, and feel free to ask questions in the comments. I will be checking them periodically. Great. Okay, so if you have any specific questions or want me to go over anything specifically, great. So another great thing you can do with velocity is you can control like the presence of the EQ. So I like it to get very kind of sharp around 1.5 kilohertz is a great place, and it's just automatically there. 1.5 kilohertz if I play loud or if I play hard. So what we can do is we'll just use the same velocity controller, and we're just going to move it to this gain of this frequency band, which is 1.5 K. And so that's going to make it so that it's more present when I hit hard. And let's see how it sounds with this range, minus 16 to 16. We will probably end up squashing that. It's actually kind of okay, but we are clipping because of it. Let's see. Let's make this Q a little bit sharper. There we go. It's too much though, so not quite that sharp. Great. Okay, yeah, I like that. All right, and one other thing I definitely wanted to go over before showing some kind of nice and maybe talking through what's going on with these extra presets up here. One other thing I wanted to go into was using envelope control on pitch and how that can add a lot of expressivity. This actually has a somewhat of a direct correlation with the acoustic world. So first of all, for those who don't know, an envelope is just a shape. It's a shape that you send to a parameter. So in the default, this means that the knob or whatever you drag it to for 100 milliseconds, whenever this envelope happens, for 100 milliseconds, that's how long it will take to reach full value. So if you picture a knob, for 100 milliseconds, the knob goes from the most left position to the most right position. And then this decay is where it falls, is how long it takes to get to its sustained value, to the value where it will stay for a time. Okay, so this decay, and sustain is for how long it's going to just repeat at that at that level. So if you picture right here, it's taking 100 milliseconds to get to the top. It then takes 300 milliseconds to get to the place where it will stay for 2 milliseconds. So this would be somewhere around 75 or something if we're still thinking about the knob 0 to 100, the 75 position. And then the release is how long it takes to go back down to 0. So that's 250 milliseconds here. For what we're doing, we're going to be dragging this envelope to pitch. And so this is going to, what we're trying to accomplish here is we're trying to make it so that the pitch goes up really high for a very, very short amount of time before falling back down to a sustained, to the 0 value, to where it should be. And what that does, it sort of mimics a drumstick hitting a drum head. If you picture a drumstick hitting a drum head, when you hit the drum head, there's an impact, and that impact is very high pitch, and that's the sound of the stick hitting the head of the drum, and then you get the resonance of the drum. And so that's exactly what we are emulating here. So I'm going to take this down to 0 milliseconds on the attack, and we're just going to make like a triangle really with this, because that's all we want, and we want it to be super fast. Let's try 2 milliseconds here, and yeah, like the whole thing maybe should last like less than 20 milliseconds. We'll see how that sounds. We might have to adjust it. Okay, so what I'm going to do then, let's listen to it again first. Just listen to how it sounds before. Okay, and so now let's go ahead and drag this this envelope to the pitch parameters of these, and we're going to adjust the range so that it doesn't go down to -48. We want it to go to 0, 0, and then we don't want it to go so high. From experience, I know it typically is better like around 20 or 30. Let's try 30. Okay, so here's what that sounds like. You hear that really, really clicky sound? Okay, and yes, let's make sure this sensitivity parameter, I think like this is the best, because we just want this to happen every single time. This sensitivity is scaling it to my velocity, but we don't really want to scale this one to my velocity. We want to scale it to, we just want it to happen. So theoretically, you could even just move this down all the way. Cool. So that's a really fun thing to send an envelope to. It's really, really cool. So there was a question just now. Is it possible to do the same thing in Ableton with this? And basically anything I'm doing here that doesn't involve timbre control. So envelopes, yes. Velocity, yes. Timbre, no. You could send MIDI from Sensory Percussion to Ableton to get access to timbre. You could use a timbre controller in Sensory Percussion via CC knob to control a macro in Ableton or something, and then you could get the timbre access. But just by Ableton by itself, just velocity and envelope. But great question. Thank you for that question. Okay. Another great place to send an envelope to is to filter. And for some reason, I like to use the built-in filter when I'm doing this, just on the samplers. If you remember from before, we used this filter over here. But we're going to use the one that's in the sampler for this. And so what I'm going to do is I just turn the filter on by clicking it. And I'm going to go ahead and drag this this envelope, this very sharp envelope we created, to the cutoff, and I'm going to do the same thing on this sampler. Great. Okay, And so probably want to, and this has a similar effect as the pitch, I think. It's because it's so fast. I don't know, for some reason this works and it's really cool. Let's go ahead and bypass the pitch ones and we'll just hear what happens to the filter with the same envelope. So we're gonna not hear what's happening to the pitch and we're just gonna use the filter. Yeah, it's not as extreme as when let's add the pitch back in. Definitely thumpier. Cool. Maybe we don't want it to go quite so low with this filter, and maybe we'll have it go up a bit higher. But where filters get really fun with envelopes, I think, I mean, it's great to send one to the cutoff. Don't get me wrong, just like we just did to the cutoff. But I think I like to send a different shaped envelope to the resonance. So right now I am just, and I like this shape. This shape I'm going to describe, this curved attack especially, and then a curved decay, and then let's make this shorter. See how this sounds, and then curve this one down. For some reason, I just like the way this sounds on filter resonance. And let's go ahead and okay, so I just dragged that both to resonance, and we're probably going to have to adjust it to taste. But let's see how it sounds. Sometimes I like to flip these as well, but let's start with them not flipped. Take the sensitivity down. It's cool, it's chirpy. Yeah, I like that. Let's actually, I think it can be more. In fact, let's flip it. Flip this. Let's see how that sounds with the range flipped. A little less chirpy. This kind of thing, these envelope things sounds great on tom sound. So let's see if I'm going to mute this kick sound right here. I'm just going to find an electronic tom sound that I like. Okay, let's try this one. Oh, kind of the same, just different pitches. Okay, cool. So let's try this. Yeah, cool, nice and clicky, and definitely clipping. So I'm just going to add a little clipper to the end of the chain. Take the ceiling down. Oh, and one great thing that can be nice is using velocity to control drive. This sounds good on kicks especially, and I like to do this if I know whatever I'm mixing for or playing for is going to be played on like cell phone speakers, because they just can't replicate a kick drum sound at the fundamental frequency. So what you do is you add some harmonic distortion. Really honky. Great. Oh, and just one more fun thing. How about it? Okay. Just one more fun thing before we move on is this is another thing I picked up from Tlakael, but I really like adding a clap or something to a stick shot. Remember when he first showed this to me, it blew my mind. So just I'm going to use the same clap from before. I don't feel like searching. And then using a velocity controller on that clap to control its pitch. Something just sounds nice about using a stick shot as a clap, and then you'll see. So the harder I play, the higher pitch it goes. Not really an analog to the acoustic world, but it is pretty cool, pretty fun. And I like to add a little bit of portamento, a little bit of smoothing to it so it behaves like a rubber band. Cool. So I heard a question about an acoustic snare roll. We do have lots of acoustic presets, and so I'm not 100% sure. I can definitely show one of those off. In fact, let's do that. I quite like. Let's go over here right before I go into these. Oops, keep clicking too many times. Let's go into here, and I quite like this snare right now. Just this one just came to my head. So like a. So yeah, that's fun. Maybe that answered the question. But I just wanted to quickly, before the stream ends, just maybe go through some of these that I picked out before, and because these are like all electronic drum sounds that or samples that have some cool things going on. So let's look at this. Is the snare drum for the preset kit Simio. So it responds a lot like an acoustic snare, and there is a snare sound with broomsticks on it, but I think many other things are in much of the drum is blended. It's like almost all blended. I think it actually is all blended, and there's all sorts of cool sounds on here, but when you play it and when you hear it, it really responds like an acoustic drum. So yeah, you can see multiple, when I hit the drums, you see multiple pads lighting up, and that's because it's blending. All right, and so let's go ahead and dissect some of this. So, this is that stick shot thing I was just telling you. You can see this velocity controller was mapped to the stick shot. And so that's how that's working. Feels so cool. It's better than reality. And so we can see less than subtle pitch control here with the damped. So it goes from 0.5 steps to 48 steps. And then there also is pitch control on the rim shot to the rim shot edge. Yeah, you can hear it gets lower as I play more towards the center of the drum. Cool. And so this is one of my favorite toms. And this is from the kit Cuddlemania. I removed the chords from the tom. This kit has chords on it, but I removed the chords from this one. So this is very not subtle pitch control from the center to the edge. Let's see what's interesting with this. Filter from center to edge, pitch from center to edge, extreme pitch from center to edge here, minus 48 to plus 48. Yep, and more filters. Cool. Great. And there's something with speed going on. Okay, so when I buzz, there's a little bit more delay, it seems like. I guess it's kind of, I do hear that. It's pretty subtle though. It's this delay over here, I think. Would that be right? Yeah, it's this one right here. So if you see when I do a buzz roll, you'll see it. The feedback should go up. Maybe we can make that less subtle just for. Yes, and a future live stream, I'll go over more in detail some of these less subtle effects. Today we were mostly talking about very subtle things, which is fun. Okay, so this is the snare drum from Acedia. Yeah, I like this one a lot. I think I just like this one, which is why I put it in. We don't have to go too in depth, but you see we've got some pitch stuff going on, some filter stuff. These are all very, very common things that you would want to modulate with your playing. Let's see where some of these effects are. I don't see any. Oh, because they're all in the samplers. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so this is an 80s tom. This one definitely demonstrates the envelope. Where is it? Oh, I guess it doesn't. Okay, so instead of using envelope, it's just using velocity on filters. This is a common like Simmons thing there. I think although I've very rarely ever played on one before, but I think they're known for playing quietly, and then when you play hard on them, the filter opens up. Cool. And then this is one of my favorites. Tlakael made this drum. It is from the kit Analog Trap Control, and it's just wonderful. There's some quantized pitch on it from center to edge. So actually quantizing the note to a scale. And then the most exciting thing about this, there's of course a clap on the rim shot. But my favorite thing about this is this filter action on the rim. So he's mapped a symbol to the rim tip, and from there, it is based off of velocity. It is controlling this filter frequency, and there's nothing on the resonance. It's just the filter frequency, and it's just so nice. And then length as well, of course, that's extremely important. Length and the fade actually, not something I do very often, but you control the fade with the velocity as well. So the harder you hit, the longer the fade out, the longer the length. And so that's super fun. And we will definitely be. Let me do my sign off actually, and then. Because what I was about to say belongs more in the sign-off. So thank you so much for joining, and I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate your questions. And there will be a blog post accompanying this on our website, which will be posted in the comments. And if you're watching this in not real time, feel free to ask comments or questions, and we will get to them. Yeah. This was a quite an advanced what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's a extremely rich topic, and I wanted to just keep it very narrow for this. So we'll definitely be doing more of similar techniques. I wanted to stay more towards the subtle end of the spectrum, but in the future we'll probably do some more wacky stuff, more fun stuff. So yeah. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it very much.